Hi there Star Wars collectors, and welcome to another Bossk Bounty video, and welcome to episode 89 of Ask Bossk Bounty. If you are new to the series and the channel, this is the weekly series where you guys ask me questions in the comment section below, and each week I do my very best to answer them. So if you do have a question for next week's episode, please leave it in the comment section below. And if I don't get round to answering your question, I do apologise right now. I get lots and lots of questions, which is awesome, which is what it's all about. But of course, I can't answer them all. But please don't let that put you off. Please keep asking the questions in the comment section below. And of course, at some point, I will get round to answering your question. If you do happen to enjoy the video, don't forget to drop a like down below. We do have a bumper episode this week with loads of questions. So some of the questions will be answered very, very quickly. And I do have this to open. This is from a fan of the channel and a Patreon supporter, Martin Footer. He sent this to my PO box without me even knowing, and it actually arrived a couple of weeks ago, and I just haven't had a chance to put it in a video. I actually forgot last week, so I do apologise, Martin. But we're going to open up this week. I know what's inside it. I've already opened it, but I want to open it for you guys, and some of it's quite funny, so stay tuned for that. The first question of today is from my latest Patreon supporter, Owen Brown. So thank you very much, Owen, for supporting the channel. And he says, great episode, Tim. My question for next week is, with all the new media due out next year, do you think it will be quite a while until we see more of the original 96 in the vintage collection? Keep up the great work, my friend. So yep, I do think it's safe to say that, because we have had a lot this year. That is actually something that I did ask them in the most recent round of Hasbro Q&As. I did ask them specifically about the original 96, saying that, is it safe to say that next year perhaps we won't see as many as we did this year because of all the new media that's coming? They've got a lot of figures, new figures from new characters to cover next year. And of course, maybe that is less slots for the original 96. And although they didn't really confirm it in numbers, I think they alluded to the fact that there is going to be a lot of new media next year and a lot of figures to get to, and perhaps there won't be as many slots. However, they did say they're not going to ignore it completely, and we can still expect to see some. So fingers crossed for some decent figures from the original 96, hopefully some brand new sculpts. And yeah, that'll be awesome. Red 7 standing by.
Red October standing by.
Says, question for next week. How much do you think the Rancor will be? I'm hoping it's about 100 to 200 at max. Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one to find out, isn't it? To see how much this Rancor is going to be. I would imagine the tooling costs are going to be quite expensive. It's big. But at the same time, there's not going to be a massive amount of moving parts. You know, maybe his fingers, the arms, the legs, things like that, his mouth. You know, if you compare him to one of the Marvel ones that they've brought out with all the hundreds and hundreds of points of articulation that they say it's got, I don't think it's going to be like that. So I would hope that it wouldn't be any more than $200, but let's see, because it's going to be big. No doubt about it, it will be big. So very interesting to find out. And also you've got the stretch goals as well. So depending on what stretch goals they offer, you know, that obviously increases the overall value of what you're getting. Logan Beimer says, question for next week. If they made Crosshair, would he have his Imperial armor or his Clone Force 99 armor? Well, in the Black Series, I believe they're doing both. You've already got the Clone 99 version, and they're going to be doing the Imperial version. I think for the vintage collection, when they get round to doing them, I would probably prefer it if we got the Imperial version, because essentially, you know, spoiler alert, he's not really part of that Bad Batch anymore. And I know he was during the Clone Wars, but for pretty much all of the Bad Batch series, he's been one of the baddies. He's been part of the Imperial. And I think I'd prefer him in that armor, and then just have the rest of the gang in the normal armor. Of course, we want both, but I'm not too sure if that would happen in the vintage collection. Professor Kitty says, such a great episode. For the next Ask Bossk Bounty, I have a question for a past figure. With the release of the Return of the Jedi Boba Fett, do you think Hasbro will update the Empire Strikes Back Boba with that brand new amazing mould? In my opinion, it definitely needs it. Well, yep, I completely agree with you that the figure definitely does need updating when you compare the two. I mean, here are the two here. And this one is, you know, vastly superior, of course, in every way, really. However, there are slight differences between the armour, namely the pads on his legs. But if they could get away with using the majority of the parts and just update a couple, and then we get an all-new figure in the Empire Strikes Back colours, then I'm going to be all for that, of course. But I mean, you just have to look at the difference in the figures. This one is so much better. But as we know, they did re-release this guy, the VC09, in the vintage collection, what, a year and a half ago now? Something like that. Now, of course, you know, is it time for them to do a re-release? As collectors, we would say yes, but probably I would say no. I think you're more likely to get the re-armoured Boba Fett from the Book of Boba Fett than you will be before you get one of these. Obi-Ban Kenobi says, a question just for fun. Looking at the Vintage Collection 1.0, what figures do you think can be in the next re-release wave? So far, they have been mostly human characters, main characters and army builders. Could be Wedge, Dengar or Aura Singh tied to the book of Boba Fett. Maybe an Ewok to continue the Endor theme. Yeah, so when it comes to those reissue waves, the ones that are designed to bring new collectors in and, you know, people that have been collecting the Vintage Collection for a very long time and have already got those figures aren't really too concerned about. You're right, they do seem to contain sort of the main characters, you know, your Luke, your Leias, your Han Solos. We had the Anakin and Obi-Wan from the Clone Wars. The Attack of the Clones ones were a very, very strange wave. But in general, yeah, it seems to be like troop builders with the Emperor's Royal Guard and things like that. Of course, as a collector, I would like them to see some of the harder ones to find, you know, like maybe General Grievous would be a good one, Mace Windu would be a good one, he's a main character, possibly Jango Fett, although some people would say that the Jango Fett figure needs an update. But in terms of reissues, I think the ones that they put out in the main line are the ones they get right. So the VC-45 Clone Trooper was a good one, people could army build that guy. And of course, the one that they've most recently announced, which is the Echo Base Soldier, which is a fantastic reissue. Going to get loads of him. He'll be great. And I've put these two guys here because I feel this one could be similar to that. I think if they did the Rebel Commando as a reissue, but give us this guy as well, mix him in within the wave so you can actually get both of them at the same time. The black version was only available in the Revenge of the Jedi set. So many people haven't got this guy. I haven't got him loose. I've got one of these guys loose, but I would like maybe 2 or 3 of this guy loose, do a couple of head swaps maybe to mix up that squad of Rebel Commandos. I think it'd be pretty cool. And the figure itself's not a bad figure. It could maybe do with ball jointed hips, but apart from that, it's a great looking figure with a great sort of trench coat and everything. So this is one for me that I think would be a good reissue. Bill Polk says, hello boss, back in the 90s I used to keep all my figures carded. In the last several years I found that I really enjoy opening up my Vintage Collection figures and displaying alongside some of my vintage ones from the 80s. Do you enjoy displaying open figures as well as your carded ones? Absolutely Bill, I love opening my figures. I always buy 2 Vintage Collection figures so I can open one and keep one carded, and I've even made plenty of videos where me and my son have opened up older figures that I missed back in the day when I wasn't collecting so much, some of the Legacy Collection figures especially. You know, I don't really care about the value that they hold. I just open them because I want the figures loose. JazzPink79 says, question for next week. Will you be doing something for your upcoming Arsboss Bounty special milestone? I am, of course, referring to your 96th episode. This series is a fantastic watch. Cheers. Thank you so much, my friend. Yeah, 96. That could be a bit of a milestone, couldn't it? The original 96. Perhaps that episode could be featured around the original Kenner figures or something. Yeah, it's not a bad idea. Simply Star Wars says, will the Vintage Collection look into multiple Phase 1 commanders like Cody, Rex, Wolf, etc., considering they have the mould for the body and all the pieces like the pauldrons and the holsters? You never can actually tell what Hasbro are going to do, but you just have to look at those amazing reveals that we've just had for the original Clone Wars miniseries. Absolutely fantastic, especially the 2 ARC Troopers. So you're right. But for me, right now, after seeing those 2 ARC Troopers, let me know in the comments if this is something that you would want. But I would love for them to reissue the Vintage Collection Republic gunship, but painted with the like shark detail from the original Clone Wars. Would be absolutely amazing. Spooky Pancake, it's a good name. Question, since we're getting the Ahsoka and Darth Maul from the Clone Wars, do you think we'll ever be getting a Savage Opress in the Vintage Collection? My wish list would be Savage Opress, Ahsoka's Clone Trooper, easy money for Hasbro, Asajj Ventress and Mother Talzin. Which Clone Wars animated series character would you like to see next? You've said it, mate, it's the 332nd Ahsoka clone. What a figure that will be. I would buy them in, well, I don't even want to say how many I would buy, but I would buy a lot of them. And of course, now we have, as you say, this Ahsoka, which currently has a poncho on that I put on her. But now we have the Season 7 Ahsoka. Man, do we need those 332nd clones. Have her there, flanked by maybe 10 of them. Fantastic. That'd be awesome. Braden Blackwell says, question, do you think they'll ever release a Vintage Collection Jedi Starfighters? Yes, they've done before. They did the Obi-Wan, so there's no reason why they couldn't repaint it into Anakin or something like that and give us more of those. Hasbro just have a bit of an issue with vehicles at the moment, really, don't they? They seem to be going down the playset and figure route rather than the vehicles, which is, you know, good on one hand, shame on the other. All right then, so a little bit of a break from the questions to open up this piece of fan mail, I guess you can call it. Sent to my PO box. That's the PO box address there if you want to send me a letter or something. And as I said, this is from a guy called Martin Footer, who is a fan of the channel and a Patreon supporter. And yeah, this is quite funny actually. So here's the note. Nice bit of printing on the note there. And it says, "Hi there, big and little Bossk. Could you give the enclosed Darth Maul a home, please? He was sent to me by mistake, and unfortunately I have nowhere to keep him. So little Bossk, if you can look after him, please, I would be most grateful. Big Bossk, please also find enclosed the released stash from the police. I think it belongs to a certain Ewok. Keep up the great work. Best regards, Martin." So if anyone hasn't seen the video, I will leave a link in the description below. But earlier on this year, I went to the woods and I stumbled across an illegal rave, and it was just a bunch of Ewoks having a good time. It's an illegal rave. And unfortunately, Romba got arrested. So this seems to be his returned stash from the police. So let's see what we've got. Now, anyone in the UK knows this packaging. This is Star Action Figures, so nice packaging. Here we go. Oh, we got some Romba's Woodland Party Smarties. That is brilliant. So yeah, if anyone's of a certain age in the rave era, you'll know what those are. We've got a few packs of those. That's good, isn't it? Oh, look at this. It's a good job I like Smarties because they look like real Smarties as well. So thanks for that, mate. That is funny. I enjoyed doing that video. A lot of people didn't really get it, but I didn't mind. I thought it was funny. So thank you for those, mate. That's very good. Oh, wow, look. Here we go. Let's get this box out of the way. Unfortunately, little Bossk isn't here to accept this at the moment because he's playing football at the moment. But this is this looks great. He's going to love this. He loves Darth Maul. So thank you so much for that, mate. He looks awesome. So I'll pass it on, my friend, and make sure that he knows it's from you. So thank you so much. But I'm going to be tucking into these. Wish me luck. The Clone Collector says, "Nice episode, Boss. Question for next week. Why do you think that the Vintage Collection 2.0 we don't get a lot of prequel figs like in the old Vintage Collection?" I think it's because since the Vintage Collection 2.0 has come back, they've really just concentrated on new media like Rogue One, Solo, Rise of Skywalker, and then they've given you, the original trilogy figures, which this is where Hasbro need to sort of understand that the Vintage Collection fans, although a lot of them do want it to be just, original trilogy and things that are connected to the original trilogy like Rogue One and The Mandalorian. I also think there's a huge part of the fan base of the Vintage Collection that also wants the prequel figures on there and Clone Wars. They like all those sorts of things. So it's just difficult with the amount of slots that they've got each year. Of course, they have to do the new media like The Mandalorian and things like that. And then it's just about trying to fit those other figures in. But yeah, prequels need some love. Saucy Boy says, "Hello BB, question for next week. Which original 96 figure are you most looking forward to that hasn't come to the Vintage Collection yet?" Well, there is a lot to choose from, my friend. There really is. They've still got to do quite a few of them. But I love the Aliens. I love Return of the Jedi. And I think Squidhead, we haven't had him for so long. I think the last one was the Power of the Jedi line in 2001. And I would love to see what a modern version of this guy would look like. Of course, it'd have to be completely updated, but I'm going to choose Squidhead. John Taylor says, "My friend gave me a 1977 Chewbacca he found in his garage. I literally just bought a 1977 Darth Vader off eBay as I want to go back and get all the originals I had as a kid. Is eBay the best place to find these, or is there another place you might recommend?" I would say that eBay is not the best place to get it. I think it's always overpriced, and ultimately you don't really know what you're getting in terms of the quality of what you're getting. I'd like to bring your attention to these two figures here that I just put out on a video that I posted yesterday actually, and these two figures I got from a brand new Facebook page called Orange Droid Vintage Toys. I'm not going to talk about it too much in this video, just go back and watch that video. I bought 10 vintage Star Wars figures from one Facebook page owned by a guy called Chris W, and you can guarantee the quality, they're fair prices, and it's just the best place to buy them, in my opinion. Dark Gara says, "Nice video as always. Question for next week regarding the Bad Batch Clone Troopers 4-pack. Do you think Hasbro will release the figures single-carded in the next few years like they are doing with the ARC Troopers?" The answer to that, my friend, is unfortunately I don't think they will. I think they're going to be very much like the Skiff Guard 3-pack. those have not been released single carded, plus the fact that it's an Amazon exclusive, so they kind of sort of own them. Essentially, they bought that stock to sell, and it's not really like a 3-pack like the convention exclusive 3-packs where it's 3 loose figures and then they single card them later on. These are 4 carded figures, and if you want them, you're gonna have to get that set, but there is more stock coming, so if you missed out on the first bunch of them, hopefully you'll be able to get one on the second wave. Just Capster says, hey Bossk, here's a question for next week. What do you think of repacking some new figures on 2 different cards as in different VC numbers? So for example, to get the most of tooling costs, packing like an EV99 on a Return of the Jedi and a Mandalorian. They did that with the VC23 Luke Correction and kind of with the Senate Guard VC36. Make more money and help sell standalone characters people would have normally bought one of. So yeah, in answer to that question, I'm 100% behind alternative card backs. It's something that I think I made a whole video about in terms of the original trilogy characters of Luke, Han and Obi-Wan Kenobi, because the original Kenner cards, all 3 of those had an alternative card back that they were released on, and I would love to see those card backs put into the vintage collection. So for example, the Gunner Luke one where Luke's in the gunner chair of the Millennium Falcon. I'm not too sure about them having different VC numbers. I think that might annoy people. So it's kind of like the opposite what they've done here really. This one here is VC26. It's the same numbered card back but with 2 different figures. So yeah, like the Senate Guard, they could have the same figure on 2 different card backs, and I'm completely on board with that. The loose collector would only need to buy 1 because they only want 1 loose, but the carded collector, yeah, an EV99 on Return of the Jedi is something that we need, and he would look awesome on a Mandalorian card because he's the bartender at the cantina. So 100% behind that idea, and yes, they could make lots more money. So come on Hasbro, just get to it. Martin Wells says, do you think figures are made primarily for adult collectors with deep pockets, or still for kids who will tear them open and wreck them, as I did in the 70s and 80s? Given what I've seen, it's definitely the former. This doesn't only apply to Star Wars, of course. I would say yes, 100%. It is for collectors. I mean, the Vintage Collection and the Black Series are collector-focused lines. Hasbro even call them that. So essentially, they are for adult collectors. Your mission fleets and things like that, they're for your kids. And that's why you see them in the shops more than you do this stuff. Everything from the figure to the packaging is of a premium quality, and as you say, you know, a kid just doesn't have deep pockets. So yes, 100% it's for collectors. And this is why on some occasions it slightly annoys me when people compare it to toys. Like, you know, if a new vehicle comes out and it hasn't got all these sounds and lights and things like that, they're for kids, you know, those were the kids' toys. When something comes out now and it doesn't have sounds and electronics and things like that, that's because it's a collector piece that's supposed to be put onto display. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't need all of that stuff. So you can't really compare something that was made for kids, even though essentially what we're looking at are toys. They're for collectors, basically. All right then, guys, that's it for this week. Thank you very much for watching. And of course, if you do have a question for next week's episode, please leave it in the comment section below. Don't forget to drop a like on the video if you enjoyed the video. And of course, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Just past 17,000 subscribers recently, so thank you all so much for supporting the channel. Thank you so much to my Patreon supporters. Got some new Patreon supporters this month, which is awesome. If you haven't checked out my Patreon, we do some awesome stuff on there. We've got a private Discord. Going to be doing a exclusive live stream where you get the chance to be on camera talking to your fellow collectors and things like that, which is awesome. So check that out if you haven't already. The link is in the description below. As I mentioned, thank you very much for watching, and we shall see you on the next one.